Okay, thank you. Thank you. We appreciate you coming all these miles up here to share your testimony. Thank you. Okay, the next speaker is Andrew Schrock. Yeah. He also has he's actually local to here, not too far. He actually has a Bible-believing church also at his place. So.
All right. Thank you all. Thank you for this opportunity, Joe. Speaking of the wonderful works that Christ has done, how glorious is that? You heard the testimony of my brother. So he left that crazy journey. And before that, we were working on a sawmill. At that time, it was me and him by ourselves, kind of half-ass working. And I don't know if it was that we hated the job or if God's Spirit was working, and I'm thinking it might have been both. But there's many times we spend a lot of time debating what is right, what is the truth. Many hours, many days, to the point where I kind of got burned out, and I was like, I don't even want to talk about it anymore. And he'd make threats of leaving and finding the truth. And I said, well, why don't you? Because I was kind of tired of it, right? And it also brings up questions in your mind. Well, I'm not doing that great either, So why don't you go, if you just hate this life so much, why don't you just leave? And finally he did, and I was kind of relieved. Now I can finally live my life. Well, the problem is he came back. And then his cousins got saved about 4 years after he did, and they come trying to talk to my dad, and he tries to witness to us, and I got really upset. At this point, I have joined the church, and I decided I'm going to be Amish, and I'm going to do it right. I know there's a lot of problems in our Amish community, in our church. There's a lot of fakes and hypocrites, but I am going to do it right. It's my best option. And that's where the good girls are at anyhow. That's what I thought. So I already made up my mind. I'm staying Amish. Well, my cousins come to talk to my dad, and he's listening to them. I was angry. Here, after all this turmoil, I decided to be Amish, and now he's looking at other options. So I got frustrated, and I said, so I'd be listening to them, trying to confront them, and obviously when you don't have the Spirit, you have no power, just like the man that was speaking earlier. If you don't have the Spirit of Christ in you, you have no power, and you don't know the truth. So it wasn't going well. So I was listening to the Amish church, and I was listening to all these believers, and my brain was about done. Finally, I decided the right thing and didn't even know it. What does God say? What does God say? What does the God say that I'm going to have to answer to one day? What does he say? They kept talking about these ordinances and satsanga that are man-made. I don't know where I got it from, but I got my concordance and I said, I'm going to look at every passage the Bible uses, ordinances, and I'm going to prove to these ex-Amish that we got our doctrines from the Bible and they can go fly a kite. Leave my dad alone. I'm going to prove by the Word of God that we are right. Yeah, big whoops. Ordinances in the German shows up quite a few times in the book of Colossians, and that's not a good book to land in when you're seeking the truth. You'll probably find it. I ended up in Colossians 2. I'm going to read a few verses here that got me saved right on the spot. Colossians 2, starting in verse 6, as you have therefore received Christ Jesus the Lord, so walk ye in him. In him. Walk in him. What was I walking in? Rooted and built up in the church. No, in him. And established in the faith. Still haven't found my Amish church. In the faith. As ye have been taught, abounding therein with thanksgiving. Then he says, beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Christ. Woo! The rudiments of the world, what are those? Material things and the sun and the moon. Things that God has made can actually keep you from Christ. You worship the creation more than the Creator. Verse 9, for in him dwelleth all the fullness of the Godhead bodily. And ye are complete in him, which is the head of all principality and power, like the brother was just sharing. When you have that power, every other power has to move, and he has to give place. Because we are in him, the one that has overcome the evil one. In whom ye also are circumcised with the circumcision made without hands, in putting off the body of the sins of the flesh by the circumcision of Christ, buried with him in baptism, wherein ye also are risen with him through the faith of the operation of God, not man, who hath raised him from the dead. And you, now it's me, being dead in your sins, the uncircumcision of your flesh, hath he, Christ, quickened together with him, having forgiven you all trespasses. How can you not read this and say, Jesus, here I am. Here I am. I am one of those sinners that you came for. And he says he's blotting out the handwriting of ordinances. That was against us, which was contrary to us, and took it out of the way, nailing it to my cross. Is that what he said? Nailing it to his cross. Not mine, his cross. And having spoiled principalities and powers, he made a show of them openly, triumphing over them in it. Let no man therefore judge you in meat or in drink, or in respect of a holy day, or of the new moon, or of the Sabbath days, which are a shadow of things to come, but the body is of Christ. Now, how do you read this when you're Amish and go whoops, and not go whoops? Let no man therefore judge you in meat or in a drink. At this point, I'm still doing good. I'm reading these ordinances, and this is how crazy it is. The truth can be right in front of you, and you miss it. Why? Because you're seeing and reading the Bible through preconceived ideas of what you've been taught. I thought at this point I am finding the verses that support my doctrine. How messed up is that? Many of us are still doing that. We're reading and we're seeing and receiving what we think is truth. And yet, it's a lie. Verse 18, let no man, because this has happened. He says, because the body is of Christ. It says, let no man beguile you of your reward in a voluntary humility and worshiping of angels, intruding into those things which he hath not seen, vainly puffed up by his fleshly mind. Let no man beguile you of your reward in voluntary humility. What is voluntary humility? I'm going to be humble, therefore I'm going to not drive that car. I'm not going to use that computer. I'm going to be humble, voluntarily. Bunch of garbage. Verse 19, it gets better here. I'll get to the verse in the next couple of verses where the scales of my eyes were lifted off in a moment. It says, what they're doing, the beguiling people that are saying you need to not eat that, you need to not drink that, you need to not touch that, you need to not handle that, you need to not taste that, are not holding the head, he says, from which all the body by joints and bands having nourishment ministered and knit together increases with the increase of God. Think about this. I'm up in my room. Nobody's doing a Bible study with me. I am too proud to let anybody do a Bible study with me. If anybody's going to figure it out, I'm going to search the scriptures and I will find it for myself. I was so bad that way when Well, I'll get to that. Remind me, Joe, if I forget. Okay. All right. Knit together increases with the increase of God. So if Christ is the head, then the body is nourished and fed through that head. When you do other things, you get the head over here, the body's going to have problems. Verse 20, wherefore, if you be dead with Christ from the rudiments of the world, why, as though living in the world, are you subject to ordinances? Oh, man, this is not going good. Touch not, taste not, handle not. You know when I read this verse? I said, yes! I knew it was in the Bible. Here it says, touch not, taste not, handle not. I knew it. Then I read this verse. Which all are to perish with the using, after the commandments and doctrines of men. Shucks. I thought I had the verses to back up my religion. I was heartbroken for a second. Finally, these verses that I thought were my answers that I was looking for. And now it says, which are to perish, these things that we say to not touch and not handle, all perish by the using. How true is that? I have not had anything that did not wear out. Even my phone breaks very easily. Then here's the clincher, verse 23. This is where I got saved. Which things have indeed a show of wisdom in will worship and in humility and neglecting of the body, not in any honor to the satisfying of the flesh. I thought the very reason for our ordinances was that very thing, to show and to prove that we're humble and that we are neglecting our body as a living sacrifice for Jesus Christ. Not in any honor to the satisfying of the flesh. I would gladly welcome that rain and that snow right in my face and the horsehair flying into my face, and I'm going down the road. And the horse farts, and the manure comes out, and everything is happening going down the road because I'm neglecting the body and I'm not honoring and satisfying the flesh. I remember being Amish going up to a stop sign. It's snowing and blowing. I'm freezing. I look over to their side there, and there's a car, and there's a woman in there with nothing on her head. Her hair down, there's no gloves on. She's perfectly warm inside there, and I'm like, that is just not fair. Now I want to read this in Dutch because I was the one that said, English is dangerous. I'm going to have to find the truth in German. How many of you know German in here or can understand it? Oh, so I'm good. Reading from verse 20 to 23 again, says, so ihr denn nun abgestorben seid mit Christo den Satzungen der Welt. Satzungen are the ordinances and the rules, or the rudiments, the things of the world. Was lasset ihr euch denn fangen mit Satzungen? Als lebet ihr noch in die Welt. Why, if you're not in this world and you're dead with Christ, why would you be subject to these ordinances? Then it says in verse 20, du sollst, sagen sie, das nicht angreifen, du sollst das nicht kosten, du sollst das nicht anrühren, was sich doch alles unter den Händen verzehrt. It all wears out by the using of your hands. Es sind der Menschengebote und Lehren. That's pretty easy and simple to understand. This is the clincher. This is what I read in German, verse 23. Welche habe einen Schein der Weisheit. Them long, big black hats with the big beards looks very sobering. You know, when you walk into an Amish church, there's a spirit there. There's an atmosphere. You feel in an abnormal environment. And many of us out here are doing the same thing, and it stinks. When you go to church and you create this thing, like, that does not mean God's there. That does not mean always God's there, and a lot of times it is, but to get your point across, we talk about warmth coming down on our back and chills. I've gotten that at a good auction. Good auctioneer can get my chills going. Does that tell you I was towards the Amish? That was our entertainment, auctions. Vers 23. Welche haben einen Schein der Weisheit durch selbst erwählte Geistlichkeit. Self-made up spirituality. Und Demut, dadurch, dass sie des Leibes nicht schonen und dem Fleisch nicht seine Ehre tun zu seiner Not dürfen. I read that, and I was like, well, that's what I thought the purpose was of the rules. I couldn't believe it. I backed up, and I read it again. At that moment, I got light. I jumped up out of my chair. I was like going like this, and I was like, whoo! What in the world? How did I not see this? And I started reading more, and then I was like, oh my goodness. I was completely changed. I couldn't understand what happened. I ran downstairs to tell my dad. It was a Chusi Sundal. You know what that is. And I was going to tell my dad. The minister was there. He was struggling. He was not in a good mood. And I couldn't talk to him. I couldn't interrupt. I ran back upstairs, and then I got a sad feeling again. I got to read more scriptures. The Amish have told me you can't just take a couple verses. That's what these ex-Amish do, and they just run with it, and they deceive you by one verse. So I thought, okay, I got to read Romans. I got to read Galatians. I just got so fired up. And that's when I was changed. And that's when this is what I remember. That's when Joe find out, and he comes out, and he wants to, and I said, I started calling people. I said, hey, I got it. I want to be born again. You remember that frustration? Joe keeps saying, Andrew, you are born again. And I said, I am not letting anybody tell me again where I'm at with God. I said, if I don't know I'm born again, I'm going to keep seeking. Wasn't that frustrating? That had to have been frustrating for you. I understood. This is one gift that God gave me at that moment. I understood the gospel. I understood the gospel in a way that not many do to this day, supernaturally. Nobody had to teach me at that point. The Bible, the New Testament made sense at that moment. And it wasn't long until church wasn't a healthy church, kind of got me to doubt everything but at that moment, I was free man. And then I got in the bondage again. But then I got free again. 2 Timothy 1:15 says, this is a faithful saying worthy of all exception, that Christ Jesus came in the world to save sinners, of whom I am chief. There's two faithful sayings in the Word of God that are worthy of all exception, and that was one, and this is the other one. This is a faithful thing and worthy of all exception. For therefore we labor and suffer reproach, because we trust in the living God, who is the Savior of all men, especially of those that believe. At that moment, I faced reproach. I still didn't know what happened. I went to church just like any other Sunday. When the young people were making fun of the less privileged, it hurt. Before I would have helped. When there was mocking, when there was laughing at the scriptures of ex-Amish leaving and the people making fun of it, it hurt. Before, I would try to kind of help. I had no fellowship. And that's when I knew I needed to find fellowship. And I left the Amish. About a month later, my whole family left. Everyone that was still at home. There was 10 kids and my parents. All left. And every one of them is serving Christ. There's a missionary in, thank you. Yeah. We got a missionary right now. He's reaching Afghanistan people and he's in Germany right now. We got my brother, 2 brothers preach the gospel. And God is using a few people that said yes. and are willing to follow him at all costs. It looks like I have 26 seconds left. For they that are after the flesh do mind the things of the flesh, and that's what we were doing. But they that are after the Spirit, the things of the Spirit. For to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace. Because the carnal mind is enmity against God, for it is not subject to the law of God, neither indeed can be. So then they that are in the flesh cannot please God, but ye are not in the flesh, but in the Spirit. If so be that the Spirit of God dwell in you. Now if any man have not the Spirit of Christ, he is none of his. That's how that works. You're either in or you're out. For as many as are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons of God. For you have not received the spirit of adoption, whereby we cry, Abba, Father. The Spirit itself bears witness with our spirit that we are the children of God. For as many as are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons of God. Not might be, not working on it, they are. Listen to this. Every one of you is led by something. Is it by the Spirit of God? Or is it by the world? Or is it by a church? Is it by my church? Is it by... What are you led by? And that's going to leave with that. Oh, the last thing. This is my favorite saying that I use to the Amish. Lost people do not know where they're going. Have you ever been in the woods and didn't know where you were going? What did you call yourself? Pretty easy, isn't it? If you don't know where you're going, you're lost. Amen?
Thank you, Andrew.
It was telling me, climb out of the boat, take a walk on the way, some places you'll never go, till you step out on faith. Don't fear the wind or the rain, Jesus called you, now go. Others might think you're insane. Just climb out of the boat.